And as I always do, I'm going to ask everyone to mute their electronic devices so that the meeting is not interrupted. And we will begin with establishing a quorum. I believe there's a quorum present. Madam Clerk, do you agree?
I confirm the presence of a quorum.
And we have an agenda that's been circulated in advance, and I'm going to propose one change in it, and that is that we will bring ordinance 2023-09 up to the top of the agenda right after we approve the minutes. So with that, I'm going to note that we'll turn to the minutes, and we had at our regular meeting of council on January 9th, we have had minutes circulated, and do I have a motion to accept these minutes as circulated?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to thank the clerk for the changes that she made at my request. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So those with that, we have a motion on the table to accept the minutes. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. And now we are going to turn to ordinance 2023-09, an ordinance appointing Kristen Bishop to the position of full-time police officer with the Glendale Police Department and declaring an emergency. Chief, can you introduce Kristen to us a little bit, although we're well aware that she's been on her way?
Yes, Officer Bishop is a graduate of Roger Bacon High School. She earned a bachelor's degree in criminal studies from Methodist University in 2014. She is married. Her son Gavin is in the audience with her grandparents and her mom. Her husband Kyle is a Cincinnati police officer in District 3. He was unable to be here tonight because he is working. Kristen comes to us with experience from Hamilton County Sheriff's Department, the City of Cincinnati Police Department, Campbell County Sheriff's Office, and the Virginia Pinellas Regional Jail.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Will, did the police committee consider this matter?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on January 26th, we had a police committee meeting, and we did need to go to an executive session for such a matter, but I am happy to say what I can, that we passed 3-0, unanimous vote to recommend this to full council.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk. Oh,
Three
motion
reads.
dispense with 3 reads.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Okay. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Ordinance 2023-09 to dispense with the 3 reads. Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemith.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemith.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
And with that, I'm going to ask Ms. Bishop and any member of her family who wishes to come up here and be part of this ceremony to come forward and come into what we call the well. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Kristen Bishop,
Do hereby swear
swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
the duties of the police officer of the Village of Glendale, the duties of the police officer
the duties of the police officer
of the Village of Glendale,
of the Village of Glendale
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Welcome.
I wanna get a picture of
Photos here. Well, Kristen, one of our traditions here is that the police officer circles the table here and shakes hands with everybody.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Congratulations and welcome, Kristen. It's good to have you.
Congratulations.
Lisa, welcome and thank you. Now we turn to the public comment section of the agenda. And is there anybody who wishes to speak to council?
I don't suppose that time would be extended since there's only one person to have public comments, but I think 5 minutes will suffice. David, you got the clock? All right. My name is Kevin Parrish, here once again to address council on some issues. Mayor Lofty, at the last GCIC meeting, that I attended, the September minutes were not available. Are they available now?
No, they'll be available at the next GCIC meeting.
Okay.
We'll have a draft so before then.
Okay. One other question. You guys had 2 other meetings after the meeting I attended. Did you guys approve the minutes for those meetings?
No,
Those are questions for
the
the
meeting you
GCIC.
attended
No,
was the
I'll finish
GCIC
them
meeting.
one, but you had
Okay.
another meeting scheduled after that too, I think. You had 3 meetings this year, I think, in
Is that the council meeting or is it
You're
just?
talking about the council meeting?
No,
The last council
that's the
meeting?
one I attended was the January 9th was GCI.
That was council, well, there was a GCIC meeting.
Then
and
I asked for one. It was a board meeting or director's meeting.
Yes,
and then
no,
was
that
it
was the members'
Oh,
meeting.
okay. Were those minutes approved?
They haven't been written yet.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to know, when, I would just put in a request again. Anyway, I had some questions. I noticed that you guys paved Summit Park and the tennis court area. Even though you're well aware that Summit Park is uninhabitable because of the water conditions and the mosquitoes. So why are we wasting money over Summit Park when the people are not even using it? Strange. But anyway, going back to minutes, I noticed that 2 years ago that we had an audit and they recommended some things in our public records, like somebody was supposed to get some training to be able to handle our public records and the retention. Was anybody appointed or trained to do that? It was 2 years ago in the audit report. Is that a yes or no?
I will have to go over the audit.
The commission was in charge of that. Also, the commission was supposed to have 2 meetings for the year of 2022. Did that occur for the public records?
Okay. Mr. Parrish, just speak. You can put in requests for public records
No,
for
I'm
your
just asking,
questions.
I'm just asking questions, since you're usually the chairperson on most of these committees that I'm asking about. And for the record, the question I asked at the Glendale Historic Planning and Preservation, as far as the demolition, that nobody seemed to recall how the vote went when they were gonna tear down Eckstein. The vote passed, 2 people voting against it. For the record, since everybody had amnesia about their vote on historic preservation. This is Black History Month, but Black history should be included in American history, the same as this Super Bowl. That is American history this year, but it will have the presence of 2 black quarterbacks and a black performer at halftime,
You
which
have
is
about a
American
minute.
history.
You have about a minute.
So, my next thing is that, you guys are still not expressed concern about the infrastructure of our water sewer system, which is 70 years out of date. It's crumbling, and you already approved to have meters put on something that is dangerous for this community. The residents have been brainwashed with the false information that you've sent out, that the water invasions that they get on a constant are not harmful because they can't see them. So I would suggest to this village that they invest in more liability insurance, because I think 70 years out of date with no records of maintenance for at least 40 years that I have documentation of when we sued you guys, that you have not even did anything for at least 40 years. So you might suffice in local government, but
Parrish,
on a
that's-
class
your
action
time's up.
suit, I don't think that this
Your
village
time
will
is up,
survive
Mr.
that.
Parrish.
Okay, I see there's a long line of people waiting too, isn't it?
Let's move on to the next thing.
Thank you.
There is no old business on the agenda. We turn to new business. We have already done ordinance 2023-09, and we turn to ordinance 2023-10, an ordinance authorizing the village administrator to offer for auction through Hamilton County online public auction the 1929 Aaron's Fox fire apparatus and declaring an emergency. Do I have that right? Yeah, okay, yeah, okay. David, can you give us a little background here?
Certainly, and I will turn it over to Ms. Pasenko, Chair of the Fire Committee as well, just to kind of give us a little bit of information about the reason for this sale. But mechanically, this ordinance authorizes me to list the 1929, as it's listed in Section 1, 1929 Aaron Fox fire truck with the model registration and engine numbers as printed here for sale through the Hamilton County online public auction. Allows me to enter into an agreement with Hamilton County to do so. There is an 8% of sale proceeds that are due to Hamilton County once the sale is complete, but the remainder of the proceeds will be received by the village and transferred to the BPGI fund once received. So Nancy, I don't know if you wanted to go into any detail about the new truck.
And then Scott, maybe you've got a couple things too, we can bounce back a bit. But it's, we're discussing this at this point, and it was approved by the fire committee to take this step. It's essentially an asset that has actually no longer become an asset. We're not in the business of maintaining vintage vehicles, and that's what we needed to do to keep this in some sort of a useful condition. It's not operable. Parts are virtually impossible to find. It's the expense to bring this into a truly operating condition, it outstrips our ability to meet it. So it's come to its final end here, and the fire committee voted to sell it, to offer it for
And
sale.
Do you have a motion here for the
Ah.
ordinance?
Yeah, wait, but I want,
I-
one second, if Scott has a little bit to add, and then
Okay.
so I move,
I'd like to get the motion on the table,
okay.
because I'll forget otherwise.
Okay, then I move that we approve this ordinance offering for auction the 1929 Aaron's Fox fire apparatus,
So moved.
And to dispense with 3 reads?
and to dispense with 3 reads.
Well, that's the
Yes,
second motion.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, one more.
Now, Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Really just to echo Ms. Masenko, what she said. With parts availability, the pricing of parts that we all see today with everything, it is becoming more and more unlikely that one will find the parts and be able to have the work completed to maintain this in the historic state that it should be kept in. It's just not being used, and through the recommendation of the fire committee, we thought that it was best that they might find a new home where someone has the time and money to give it another life.
Any further discussion?
I have
Yeah.
a question, Mr. Mayor, that is, are we obligated to take whatever the bid results? That is, if it's $1, we sell it for $1?
We would set a starting price, which based on the condition of the vehicle, we would use the condition of the vehicle to set that starting price, and then bids that would go up from there, we would be obligated to take the highest bid.
And what is that value? Have we? do we know
That has not yet been determined. I'm gonna work with the fire department and with Scott and BJ as far as what that amount should be, but no less than, I would say, $10,000 or $20,000 to start. So that's again a starting price based on the condition of the vehicle, so that could change.
So I'm sorry,
You got it.
follow-up question with that, because I also was wondering about whether this is an auction with reserve, which would allow us to pull it. So if the minimum is 20,000 and it goes up to, say, 25,000, could the reserve be set higher than that? For instance, 70 or 50,000?
It could be, in that if we are trying to motivate it to sell, we would have to set that price lower, obviously, to get it to sell. If we set it too high, then there could be no action on the item, and we would have to pull it after 60 days.
Okay, so there is a minimum which triggers the bidding,
Correct.
but there is not a reserve which would allow us to say, if it doesn't reach, say, $50,000, we can withdraw it, we can withdraw our
Correct.
item.
Not to my understanding with the way the Hamilton County auction works.
And I don't know, I'm online looking at it now, trying to get some clarity to that. I would suggest that we look into it in as much as, it was 2 or 3 years ago that we were soliciting donations to store the Aaron Fox. And now we're putting it up
Yep.
for auction, and it could go for as low as what, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000.
The problem is it doesn't run. And,
Yeah,
and
but the
I've-
parts,
we've
you know.
talked to some folks, and they say, if you can get it running, it will have a lot more value. But right now, we have not been able to get it running since I've been mayor. I think it's maybe made it out early in my term for one event. And after that, it was they'd always come to me and say, this is broken, that is broken, we can't get it out. We finally just, I think everyone's decided that we don't have the skills, the, ability to get this thing running and keep it running.
Hey, David, I'm sorry,
Hmm?
you,
Yeah, my concern was only that the parts, several of the parts may be worth more than $5,000 or $10,000. Granted, it's not running, but the parts may be worth more than that. And if we're gonna just give it away, put it on the street and say for sale.
Well, We're not doing that. We're gonna have a starting price, and if we don't get a bid at the starting price, we won't
We
sell
also
it.
legally can't. We do have to sell it, advertise it to the highest bidder.
Yeah,
so.
I was gonna ask you, isn't that the
Yeah.
state?
Mhm.
Okay.
And the Hamilton County auction site offers the most centralized,
Yeah.
easiest
Okay.
way to do
I agree
this.
with that.
Will this have to come back before council when, once the bidding has come back, or is just, this is the last thing that we're saying?
Yeah, this is the last thing, and then whatever the price comes back at based on the highest bid is what we would be obligated to accept.
Have we put it up for sale in any other manner, eBay or some other vehicle that collectors might be interested in nationally or regionally, as opposed to simply Hamilton County? I don't know how
No.
widely anticipated sales are at the Hamilton County auction.
Well, the chief has said that he is going to reach out to
Right.
people who he knows have an interest in antique fire vehicles and the skills to, refurbish them and that. So, I mean, the word is going to get out, and I can't tell you it's gonna be nationally, but he will get it out to people he knows who can do this sort of thing. And if they wanna bid on it, they can bid on it.
The Hamilton County site's just a more streamlined process to do it that is commonly accepted for municipalities to sell surplus equipment or unneeded equipment.
Does it have any, national following? Do we know if people look at county listings?
I'm sure that they do. I can't, I don't have any references or anything like that for them, but, I mean, it would have a web link that could be shared to, collector car groups or collector vehicle groups or those interested that they'd be able to bid.
I mean, we will see that the chief does due diligence in trying to find people who might be interested in bidding on this. And if there are organizations out there that collect these things or whatever, we'll put the word out to them and anybody else we think might be interested.
So we have set no timeline on that, so that could be September or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't know how widely known it will become that it's available. If we put it at auction in March, we may not get what we had hoped to get originally. So if we've got time to look before putting it on auction to see competitively, I don't know how.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We will put the word out. We will get the word out to everybody we think might be reasonably interested.
There's might be, this is a good ordinance to try to get the ball rolling, but I mentioned in a previous meeting, there are a couple of publications for collectors. I don't know the collectability of fire trucks, but there are larger vehicles that are collected by people. One is Hemmings Motor News. And they have thousands of vehicles nationwide for sale, everything from motorcycles to larger trucks. So it might be wise, before we put it on the site, to see if there's an appetite for this type of a vehicle there. You could even look up that site and see what sort of vehicles they have, if they have fire trucks for sale or not. And take that approach first, come back to our next council meeting, put it on the auction if we haven't found someone to just outright buy it.
Kathy, can you inform us about the public bidding
Yeah, this-
requirement?
The village is beholden to the competitive bidding process, so if it's something that you wanna take a more creative approach to, that's the kind of thing, it would be a CIC transfer, where you put it in the hands of them with
Well,
specific directives.
Got it. I wonder though, if you put it on a site like I'm describing, it's just like putting it on an open public forum, this vehicle is for sale.
Which won't meet the minimum requirements for competitive bidding for disposal of property.
Really?
Could the village
that's
give
what,
it to
again-
GCIC?
Yes, that would be the alternative,
Well, that's a lot of work
Yeah, it is.
to transfer it or.
but we could try. Can we at least do the research to see, I'll do the research and see
I've
what's
got
on
it
the
right here.
Hemmings.
There are
Okay.
2 Aaron's Foxes of 1924 listed on Hemmings. One is price listed at $40K and the other one's at $69.
Okay, are they,
I was just.
are they
I have it here.
can you tell if they're operating or not?
I would
doesn't give a
assume
lot of-
one is, cause it's out in the middle of a field and looks in pretty good shape, the other one's in a garage,
Okay, so a
so.
wide
So do
variety.
those qualify for the public bid site? No?
I don't know
That-
what state
Yeah.
those are from or what the
Okay.
requirements are. you know.
Okay, that's a nationwide site, but
Yeah,
if it doesn't fit, maybe it's something we should try before we put it on the auction site.
And-
Um,
I'm sorry.
Is it possible to have someone look at it to see if it can be made to run, to operate?
I'm
I
sure
thought we'd
for
been doing that
any amount of
for a
money, we
long
could have
time.
somebody
Yeah.
get it
Scott?
running.
Yeah, who's tried to
Scott,
make
can
it
you-
operate?
Yeah, can you answer that?
Yeah, so we, there's a local society here in Hamilton County.
Okay.
That, there's a group of men that's their weekend hobby is they tinker on old fire trucks, just like
Okay.
an old car, a Mustang group, or the Hot Rod group. There are these guys
Yeah.
that are out there. And we have brought them in a few times,
Mhm.
with their experience and knowledge on a Saturday to help us get this thing going, and they're kinda at their end.
Okay,
of it
so
as
somebody's
well.
looked at it all.
So yes, and furthermore, there are several of these types of societies that are out there across the United States that, if we got the word out there, that we might have a better chance of selling it. And it could just be the link. Once the link is established, then we can blast it out and share it through all these different societies, and
Mhm.
we can get it to the local group here, and they can blast it out nationally and things of that nature. So
And if we did that, you prefer it goes to the CIC?
well, if they're sharing the link to the auction that meets the statutory requirements, then you kind of have both
I see.
simultaneously. And I will say the Aaron's Fox company was here in Cincinnati, so presumably there was probably more availability of parts in that sort of truck here.
There could have been, I recall though, 10 years or more ago, we put a few $1,000s into it, hoping to nurse it along, but.
6,000.
6,000, so it does feel like we're fighting a losing battle and we've got a tight budget and we just don't have extra money to put towards this. Plus, I agree with what Scott said, it needs to be in the hands of somebody, if we really care about it, it needs to be in the hands of somebody who can take care of it. We just don't have the time or the money.
And if it gets sold locally, hopefully it does, I'm sure they would be more than happy to bring it around and
Yeah.
actually restore it and, yeah.
So it sounds like the
Okay.
public auction is the way to go. We're overly complicating it if we start to do all the research. In my mind, shouldn't we just move ahead?
Not if
Vote
you
on
can, not if you can get $50,000 when you were gonna post it for $20,000.
Well, with the agreement that the word will be spread, that's the critical
Yes.
piece.
Yeah.
We need not just Hamilton County, Ohio to know that this truck is for sale. We need lots of people
there-
in lots of places. That's how you get the top dollar.
Yeah. There is a museum in Indiana, isn't there, that I was told that
There's several.
handles
Yeah.
old fire, vintage fire trucks, and we're certainly gonna put out the word broadly, we can do that, right? We can reach out to
Yes.
people and tell them about it and say, hey, look at the Hamilton County, website,
Right.
and if you're interested, bid on it.
I'd like to speak in favor of the Hamilton County website also, but I think we need to raise the bid or whatever. So it's sort of a hybrid of what Mike Bessel is saying and what I'm hearing, how I feel. I wouldn't put it up there with a start bid of $20,000. But at the same time, I recognize that the Hamilton County website and their online auction capacity can reach more systematically than I think we can without having the real experience of doing this. Where are we with this ordinance?
We've got an ordinance on the table, it's been moved and seconded, which moved to dispense with 3 reads. If people wanna do something more, that's just putting extra work on David, which I'm not very happy about, frankly. We've had situations where we just had a sheriff's sale of a property on Coral, and I forget what the minimum bid was, but the auction price just took it up to what somebody was willing to pay. And I think if we get the word out to the people who have the interest here, they'll come if they want to bid, and they'll bid, and it'll go for whatever it's worth.
They're also worth mentioning, there is no maximum amount of time that it can be posted on the site. there's a minimum of 15 days, but there's no maximum amount of time. So if we were to post it, say 45 days, we've collected all of the information that, or all of the bids that we can, price is steady, then we could decide to accept that offer and
That's good.
just conclude the
Yeah,
sale.
that's good.
Any further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Ordinance 2023-10, to dispense with the three reads. Mr. Bessel.
Aye, I will trust the fire department assistant chief and others to make sure that we get maximum dollar for this vehicle
Ms.
through
Duke.
the site.
Nope, sorry. Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Turning to ordinance 2023-11, an ordinance authorizing amendment of the 2023 appropriations of the village plan and general improvement fund and declaring an emergency. David, can you give us some background here?
Certainly.
But this will also be background from the chief of police too, right?
Yes. Fill in anything that I don't say. So the appropriations that we set in December included $39,442 for the purchase of a new police cruiser. The public or the state bid pricing window had closed by the time we had placed the order. It was a high demand for vehicles, very small allocation of those vehicles. So the price has increased by about $1,800. So this ordinance recommends an increase of $2,000 to cover that, plus any slight overage that might exist towards the purchase of this vehicle. Chief, do you have the new price? Is it 40,000?
40 or 41, I believe. I don't have it on me now.
Is 40,933 would be the new purchase price. So this appropriation does cover that, plus a little bit more in case there is an increase, but we don't anticipate one. So passage, we'll be able to order the cruiser and get it in probably 2025 at this rate of the way that vehicles are being manufactured.
And did we already account for the equipping of the car in another ordinance or something like that? Like the lights and all the
Yes,
things?
that's already been approved.
Okay.
Motion for the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to dispense with three reads.
Second.
Discussion.
One question on equipping and signage. Does this price include putting the wording on the side of the car?
There will be no wording on the side. This is an unmarked car.
Oh,
This will be for my use.
Saving some money.
Further discussion?
I'm glad I asked.
Madam Clerk?
For ordinance 2023-11, to dispense with the three reads. Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2023-12, an ordinance authorizing amendment of the 2023 appropriations of the general fund, authorizing the administrator to perform a lot split of public property and declaring an emergency. Mr. Lumsden.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance comes from a meeting of the Glendale Community Improvement Corporation related to the leasing of the property at 38 Village Square, formerly occupied by CF Bank. Through its negotiation with potential new tenants, it's come to discussion about the payment of the property taxes, whether that be something that is placed on the village or placed on the tenant. Regardless of the outcome of that discussion and negotiation, in order to reduce the maximum taxability of the property, recommending that we split it to isolate out the parking area and the building itself. I've spoken with Hamilton County Auditor, and this is fairly common for properties in this condition. The building itself would remain taxable, while the public parking lot would become exempt, just like the remainder of the village square. So the ordinance permits me to perform that split. It also increases the appropriations of the general fund so that I can use a surveyor and recording and legal fees as necessary to complete that work.
Motion for the ordinance?
So moved.
Second?
Motion dispense with three reads?
So moved.
Second.
Okay,
A question.
now,
David, this is really great. This is a great idea, I think. So does this mean, with the exception of the handicap parking, all the other spaces will be open parking, no time restrictions on them?
Time restrictions are still something that would be determined by the village and the police department, but they would be open parking to the square as they are now. But time restrictions are something that's just dictated by the signage that's placed on the spots.
So we
it
can take
could
the
be
signs.
it could
Yeah,
be removed.
great. Well,
Mhm.
that's, I think that's extremely desirable.
When Meritage reopens.
Yeah,
and-
absolutely.
Of course.
Okay.
just for my benefit, David, and I don't recall this from the GCIC meeting, is the split going to include the two spaces on the north end of the building? Or will it include all the parking area, or just the parking area that's to the east?
No, the initial concept is to eliminate all of the parking from the taxable area of the property in order to reduce the taxes as much as possible. Now, if the negotiation between the CIC and potential tenants requires the addition of dedicated parking for that building's use, that's something they can negotiate. But as far as the actual taxable property, it would be restricted to the building itself.
Okay. Further-
And the grass area or not? Because there's,
We would include as much property as possible to make it a legal lot
Okay.
under our zoning code, but I would not anticipate including any more than we have to, frankly.
Right.
So
So pretty much the building envelope, possibly a little bit towards the bollards that are there, but pretty much the building envelope.
my first inclination is to use the brick walkway that leads into the building as the boundary. That
Got
way,
it.
it's pretty clear who owns what.
Very good.
We'll see what a survey ultimately results in.
Further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I'm sorry.
Question, there is a fence that separates this parking lot from the one off of Sharon Road in an arch.
I think that's the village's fence.
Right, so with the village still owning the parking lot, is it feasible to take down that fence that separates the parking lot off of Village Square from the parking lot off of Sharon Road? So that you can come in, you can enter the parking lot from Sharon Road, and if there's not a space there, 10 spaces there, if you want to come through and park in front of, park between the Meritage and what used to be the bank, you could do so by removing the fence.
I recall this question came up some time ago, and because of the required amount of space for vehicle travel in two directions, then that would require the elimination of parking in that area. We could certainly revisit it, but it is somewhat outside the scope of what we're talking about right here. But it could be something that we could revisit with an engineer.
I think that's how the fence got there to begin with.
I think it's a strict comenius thing, but I think Councilmember Duke makes a very good point. Because I've sketched that whole area out, and you put angle parking in there, and you can maintain almost all the parking spots. Having you exit out of the village or an entrance, actually you could create the entrance through there, so I think there's a lot of possibilities.
We could take it up in the streets
Yeah.
committee.
Yeah.
There you go. Good discussion for streets.
All right.
Okay. Further discussion? Madam Clerk?
For ordinance 2023-12, to dispense with the three reads, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler,
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Basemuth,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler,
Aye.
Ms. Baldridge.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we turn to the reports from the mayor, village administrators, standing committees, And I will begin with the mayor's report, which I will keep short. First of all, there were no births or deaths reported to the village office. Second, just for the record, we have not put out any false information to the village about our water. Everything, we pass all the tests that were required by the Ohio EPA and the US EPA to pass. We report to them regularly on the results of our testing. And then I'm just going to say briefly, as most of you at the table know, I will not be available to preside at the next meeting of council on March 6th. And I can tell you that you will be in very good hands with our Vice Mayor, Mr. Bessel. And that's the way our ordinance applies. So with that, I will be back in this chair, I guess, in April.
Safe travels.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn over to our...
The strategic plan RFP was published on January 31st. Copy of that was circulated with the packet. On Friday, it's also visible on our website. Those responses are due on March the 3rd. We're giving folks a substantial amount of time to respond to get as many results as we can. I'll circulate any information as I receive it on that in the meantime. The quiet zone is, I'm going to be very superstitious here and say hopefully being repaired very, very soon. Keeping a very close eye on the weather. We have the necessary equipment. We're waiting for 2 good weather days. We believe and are scheduled tentatively for Thursday and Friday of this week for that to take place. Again, I'm being very superstitious when I say that because weather can change, especially in February in Cincinnati, pretty quickly. That will require closure of the road at Oak and the railroad crossing Thursday into Friday. Scheduled to be available end of this week. We're working on wrapping everything up, and we'll circulate those as soon as they are available. Thank you.
Question.
Yes.
I have to ask. So let's say that the work is done on the Oak crossing, and it's complete, it's correct. Is there a notification period, 30 days or so, that CSX has to notify its engineers of this change in this? Or is this an instantaneous shut your horn down?
So we have, I've been in direct communication throughout this entire project with the local signal manager, who is going to inspect the installation on site on Friday, make the necessary connections so that the quiet zone will be fully operational on Friday. Now, that will then update CSX's communications to its engineers, notifying them that the quiet zone is back in effect. Immediately, or within a couple of hours. I'm sure it takes some time for the information to populate. That being said, I'm not expecting full compliance by any stretch of the imagination. Unfortunately, it's been some time since it's been active, so I'm sure that some engineers aren't quite used to having the quiet zone after a while. But we certainly are very, very hopeful that all of CSX's information will populate out once it's back in service.
Southern, there's a...
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Yep.
And Amtrak.
Okay.
But they're
3 a.m.
polite.
That's 3
Amtrak
a.m.
is polite.
Yeah, 3 a.m. Norfolk Southern.
I have a question, David, please. You distributed the check register today, or yesterday, and the Huntington checks are all in the same check sequence.
Correct.
And so how do we separate the enterprise from the general account with that?
That will be done through our accounting system. So the funds that are reviewed and evaluated during budget time, during monthly quarterly financial reports, will be used to keep track of the status of those funds. The checking account is simply a mechanism by which the village operates. It's not a measure of the operations of a specific portion of the village. Cash is becoming less of a way to monitor the operation of the enterprise and more of like fuel in the car, and we'll set the road trip based on the accounting system and the fund balances.
So as I receive that, I will no longer have the enterprise report separate from the.
Correct. All checks will be written out of the same checking account and combined regardless of application.
Okay.
So will there be a report, two separate reports then for each of those?
So reports will be circulated for each fund. So we have four
Okay.
utilities funds.
Yeah.
Water, wastewater, water repair replacement, sewer repair replacement. And then those funds will be ways that we keep track of things like the cash balance and revenues and expenditures for those funds. The checking accounts are just simply cash available to the village at any given time.
Okay.
It will make sense as we move into the system. And also, as I said, it is a requirement of UAF. We can't operate two separate checking accounts simultaneously.
I understand it as long as reports are available to
Yes.
show each
Mhm.
different fund.
Denise in our office is going to work with me and with council as the year goes on to
Okay.
tailor those reports so that they're accessible and easy to understand.
Very good.
All right.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call for the committee reports?
Certainly. Finance Committee, please.
The Finance Committee did not meet. Part of the reason was to be able to have year-end financials available. So with those potentially available this week, is it possible for the Finance Committee to meet on the, well, I'll say Valentine's Day for family, the 15th or 16th? Would people be available to meet that day at, say, either 3 or 4 o'clock, allowing David to have a meeting during business hours?
Did you, February 15th?
15 or 16?
I'm sorry, which committee, finance?
Finance,
Just a reminder, Recreation and Playground is meeting at 1,
at 1,
and that,
On what day?
on the 15th.
on the 15th?
I'll get to that, but it might run a
Yeah.
little bit long, so.
Okay,
So maybe the 16th.
so the 16th, how's the 16th look for everybody for a finance meeting?
Well, I can say that
Good.
I'm out.
Good.
I'm out on the 16th,
Okay,
not just,
you're not available? How do you look on the 15th? If we did it at, say, 4 or 5?
4 could be better.
3:30.
Would that work for you?
3:30
It
would
can
even
work,
be.
it's a big afternoon for at
Just a
least the
big
3 of us, but
afternoon
that's
for
okay.
us, yeah. So, okay, so how about 3:30 on the, or 4 o'clock's better?
3:30. Oh, wait.
3:30?
3:30.
Going once,
3:30.
going twice. Your meeting should wrap at what, 2:30?
Probably.
So maybe 3:30 then on the 15th for finance. Is that good for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
3:30, okay. We'll get it all done in one day. All right, that's it for finance.
Thank you. Fire Committee, please.
Fire Committee didn't meet in January, but we have a meeting scheduled for this Thursday at 4 o'clock in the Fire Department Training Room. The agenda will be to discuss the replacement, the new fire truck, the sale of the Aaron's Fox, and some operational update. Over to you, Assistant Chief.
Thank you. All the members of council should have received the fire report from Captain Eigel this evening, just before the meeting. So you should have that. Just in summary, we had 35 total runs, 25 of those in the village, with 10 being mutual aid outside. Of the 35, 19 were fire runs that call up for Agent 45 to respond. A couple things that we're working on, that's in the report, is the CPR training. I've seen everything, all the discussions on our village group, Facebook. So we've heard it, and Captain Romano and Dr. Leach are working on it, and we'll have some dates very soon for that. And then the last thing I want to do is thank the mayor. Mayor, thank you for coming Saturday to our department meeting. We had an all-hands department meeting this past Saturday, and the mayor was kind enough to come in and say a few words and hang out for a little bit, and we treated him to some donuts and coffee. So.
I eschewed the donuts, but it was a pleasure to be there, really, and to see the energy in the room with the firefighters there, and people were really engaged, and it was a privilege to be there. And of course, the main purpose in being there was just to say thank you to them.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Laws and claims, please.
Laws and claims did not meet. We do need to meet. My thought is to schedule a meeting back to back with utilities committee meeting when that occurs, because at least Will and I are both on utilities, and we can see if Nancy is available. And utilities does need to meet, so I'm going to wait until that is set and see if we can
Okay, well,
carve something out. That concludes laws and claims.
Thank you. Police committee, please.
Police committee did meet on January 26th, and as we discussed earlier, that was all executive session, so, and we know with the mayor's appointment and now confirmation of Officer Bishop, that's, was a successful meeting, and I will turn it over to the chief.
Thank you. I've been told the report that I thought I forwarded out this afternoon did not actually go out. I did try and resend it during council, so.
It arrived.
Did it,
Yeah.
it went out. I will give the monthly stats here. We investigated 4 auto accidents during the month of January. Those were all due to weather-related issues. 9 traffic warnings were issued. 59 total citations issued. One of those being an OVI arrest. And we also made 8 arrests on traffic warrants, DUS, and things like that. And that's all I have for this month.
Chief, I do like the new report that,
The one from,
that Virginia is providing.
yeah, on that side, we've been using the credit card machine in the online payment system for a month now. Village take this month, revenue wise, was $5,797.04, up from last year this time. So things are going well.
One last thing. Any chance with a new employee, village employee, that your site would have your organization's picture and biography?
Good idea.
We've talked about that, and I'm hoping we're gonna do some new IDs here in the future for all village employees. David's gonna take some pictures. I'm hoping when we do that, we can take some new pictures and possibly have Spencer put those on the website, and we'll put a new picture frame up in the PD of everybody.
Great.
As well.
Great.
Thank you. Public buildings and historic preservation, please.
Public buildings did not meet in January.
Thank you. Recreation and playgrounds.
Recreation and Playgrounds did not meet in January, but we do have a meeting scheduled for February 15th at 1 o'clock. We will be outside, weather permitting, on location in the Oak Road Greenbelt. We're gonna meet up at the corner of Oak and Troy. And we will be joined by members of the Mill Creek Alliance and probably some folks from Tri-State Trails and Great Parks of Hamilton County. I'm very excited about this. The Mill Creek Alliance has approached us about considering Glendale's Oak Greenbelt in a part of a 41-mile hike-bike trail, Greater Cincinnati Connector Trail. So they've come a long way with this. As many of you may know, they have been working to connect the various county parks. So one of the last pieces they're working on is the one that connects Glenwood Gardens, which is already being connected to Winton Woods, into Sharon Woods. So that is, anyway, there's curiosity about whether our Oak Road Greenbelt could be suitable for that. So that's what we'll be meeting to look at. If anyone wants to come, you're more than welcome. I strongly encourage good hiking boots because I'm quite familiar with the terrain and you're gonna need them. So, that's it.
Thank you. Streets, public improvements, and lights, please.
The Streets Committee did not meet, but we need to set a meeting with several issues coming forward. Our normal street planning, we did some preliminary planning in the fall, winter time frame. We have planning to do to be ready for summer and street repair in the summertime. And Public Works has a list of streets that they want to pay attention to this year. So we want to confirm that and get that moving. The other thing is the work that's going to be done in the Greenbelt for water retention, detention, and the work to be done around Albion and Hedgerow in conjunction with Bethany. Bethany, I understand, has some new information that they should be able to share regarding their current water system. And then, so those are two main issues we want to cover. I'll get my calendar out again. We didn't use the 16th for finance. How's the 16th for Streets Committee at, say, 3 o'clock? So then the 21st, how's that day look? That's Tuesday of the following week.
In the afternoon.
Yes, this would be, I would propose this one at 3 o'clock. Good for everybody?
Yeah.
Streets Committee, okay. Streets Committee, 3 o'clock
On the what? No?
Not on the streets.
Oh, sorry.
on the 21st. That's you and Will, I think.
Got it.
Okay, so the 21st at 3. Thank you.
Oh, it's not me?
No, I'm not
No, but
streets.
Oh, you're not Streets?
No.
Oh, who else
Wait.
is Streets? Jeez,
Yeah, that's a problem.
Wait a
that
minute.
is. I thought,
Marilyn, are you?
I thought I was on
are
the
you,
streets.
are you on Streets?
I thought I was.
Maybe you are.
Darnete.
No, maybe you are.
Oh, wait a
I thought it was
minute.
Will. I'm sorry. Okay, so you are on Streets, so we're good. Either way.
Mike, Nancy, and Marilyn.
3
I'm
o'clock.
on police,
Streets is
water,
night.
public buildings, and finance.
Wait, who is
Okay,
it?
You, and you.
good, us 3.
Okay, got it, okay.
And we're all available,
November
so.
21st at 3,
Just
right?
here if I am.
Sorry, Will.
That's
Had you
great.
going there, Will?
Jump under the table.
Yeah, not one more. Please, no. All right, thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Utilities, please.
Utilities did meet last Thursday. The topics covered were, we addressed the 2022 financial results of the enterprise. And regrettably, we operated at a substantial deficit. And it is something we'll have to keep a very close eye on, because obviously that reflects the fees for water that we have to charge. We spoke of the schedule of the meter installation progressing properly, and it is anticipated that it will complete by the end of August, I think you said, David, with maybe some stragglers.
Mhm.
And we're hoping that that will permit us to more accurately determine what water is being used by residents, because we have some doubts about the old meters that are presently installed. And with, we anticipate that that will help reduce that deficit that we anticipate that we had this year, maybe reduce it for next year. There are other topics that were discussed, and we concluded that about at approaching 6 p.m. But that was all I have to say about utilities, and we'll schedule a meeting soon with utilities and perhaps back to back with laws. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our reports from the committees. Reports from clerk and treasurer. Madam Clerk?
I have no report. Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer?
I sent everyone our January results. You'll start noticing that Huntington checking is going to start showing up on this report, and Fifth Third here within this month or next month might disappear, because we'll be down to one checking account, so that's good. Our investments are almost $10 million in Huntington investments. And with David's help and Becky's help, we might be able to increase some of that by shifting some of the money that we have in our checking account to maintain a proper balance in our checking account to manage our day-to-day, but still be able to maximize our investments in, with Huntington. So. And with that note.
Okay, does anybody have anything to add?
Questions?
My apologies.
Back to business, that is excellent treasury management, Mr. Treasurer.
I have no idea what.
Very good treasury management.
That is excellent. What are the, penalties or so forth for, like you said, accessing some of what we have invested? That's a
What do you-
nice, healthy amount.
What do you mean, penalties?
Pardon
There's
me?
no penalties. No.
It's managed through Mike and some of the people at Huntington. Things are set up the investments are set up in a bond ladder, and every so many months, a large sum of money comes due that can either be reinvested or used by the village. So we're never without funding, and for major projects, you'll know at least a year in advance when you need the money, and we can plan that by not reinvesting those funds into a CD.
Like I shared at the beginning of the year, 2023 will have about $2 million that'll mature. So every couple months, I kind of see what David's got and what you guys want in terms of money, and I decide to hold back 250 or $500,000 or whatever,
Right.
versus investing that. So
That took about probably 5 or 6 years to set up that ladder. It takes some time, and then once you've got it, it just keeps rolling.
And we haven't taken much of a hit this year the way individuals have with investments.
well, we took a hit last year.
Bonds are different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Bonds
took
are
a
different
hit.
kind of
Yeah.
Bonds are different, and what happens in a rising rate environment, the value of the bond can go down on its face if you were to sell it. If you hold it to maturity, which we typically do, there are some exceptions to that, but normally, if you hold to maturity, you get all your money plus all the interest. It's just that if you try to sell, say, a 5-year instrument in year 2 in a rising environment, by virtue of the way a bond works, the value of that bond will go down and you will lose money on that sale. We typically will not sell until it reaches maturity.
As an example, last year we had a CD earning 0.6%. That had 2 more years to mature. So I took a look at that one, and I took a look at treasuries that were yielding above 4%. Did a calculation on that. It's like, hey, this is a better deal for us. We'll take a hit on selling that CD at a slight loss with the upside that we can get with a longer term treasury. And typically, I'm looking for 5-year CDs because those are the best ones. And now we can get some of those at 4% plus. So that's 5 years of guaranteed 4%. Huntington keeps saying, well, don't make it so long. I go, well, I want to guarantee the village that we'll have this revenue. Because if I only do for 2 years, I might be able to get 4, and yeah, I might go up to 5, but at least I can guarantee 4 for 5 years. So we want to play safe to maximize how much money we'll bring in. So we have a lot of CDs and a lot of treasuries, 2-year treasuries, because those have been kind of rotating up and down right now. So we're doing well. So better than 2019 and 2021, 22. Yeah.
Well, and we come now to the review of expenditures, and we've received 2 sets of reports, one for December of 2022, and that report was not available at the January meeting. Folks were busy working on getting things done for the end of the year. So we have received a report and general checking for December 2022, certification for the payment of certain bills, and another report for December of the certification for the payment of certain bills in the enterprise checking fund. We then also have similar reports for this year, January, and we have again certification for the payment of certain bills in let's see. Just the general fund in that one.
That's one
It's just
checking
all one
account
fund
for
now.
all.
So
all those
we're,
things.
we've got one
Yes.
checking account now, we don't have
Yes.
an enterprise
Yes.
checking account anymore?
We do, but we're not using it.
Okay,
Yep.
got it. So, do I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of these reports?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.